and welcome to an exclusive episode of My Travel Money TV. We're delighted to welcome and interview Gary Bembridge today, a cruise connoisseur, travel writer and conference speaker. Gary has just released his latest book, The Cruise Traveller's Handbook. So it's great to have him here. We're just going to ask him a few questions on cruising and his book and everything. So Gary, it's great to have you. I think we're really interested in finding out how you've gone from loathing the sea to absolutely loving it and having complete passion for cruising. How did that happen?
Probably like most people, I had this very stereotypical view of cruising. So I thought it was for old people, there'd be nothing to do, I'd get seasick, all those kind of stereotypes. So I never went cruising ever because I thought it was just a terrible idea. And then I had to go cruising because I was invited to go and talk on a marketing conference on a cruise ship, which was the Aurora. Mm-hmm. And so I begrudgingly went because I thought, well, it's a good conference, I wanted to do the talk. And then we got on the ship, and as we pulled out of Southampton, I just kind of got it. I suddenly realized, and as we headed out to sea, it actually was quite rough, actually, bizarrely, and I didn't get seasick. But it was just that whole experience of, the magic of being on the ship, being at sea, and I just kind of understood what it was all about. And also, having been on the ship, I realized there was loads of things to do. I mean, they're vast, they're huge. There was great food. There was, entertainment. There was, and that kind of just got me hooked. So after that, I then decided, right, I want to do it properly, and looked on the QE2, and from then it was just love.
Wow! And is that how that's resulted in you going? I think it's every month you've been travelling for the last 25 years. Is that right?
Yeah, I did. Because I had a European job and a global marketing job, and so I was traveling 2 or 3 weeks of every month. And so the last 25 years I've done that. Now, for the last 2 years, I now focus full time on kind of writing my blog, making travel videos, and so I still travel the same amount. So yeah, I've literally, and I've actually got because I capture everything I do, and I literally have a list of everywhere I've been.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
And where do you think is the ideal place for the first time cruiser?
I think probably for the first time cruiser, the best place to go is to go wherever's closest to them. Mm-hmm. So if you're in the UK, for example, from Southampton or Dover or wherever, and actually just go on a really short, 4 or 5 night cruise, sort of around, Northern Europe or whatever. So you actually get a sense of what it's like being on the ship. You don't have all the hassle of flying. You can just pack and go and that sort of stuff. So for me, that's the best thing to do is just go and taste it. Because I think the same as I did is, it was a couple of nights. You realise you get comfortable about being at sea. You realise the ships are very stable. You realise the scale of stuff to do. And if you don't like it, you've only got 3 or 4 nights, and it's really cheap because those 3 or 4 night taster cruises are really cheap. They're anything from 100 to 200, 300 pounds. And the same thing, in the US, you have much more choice if you're from the US, because there's something like 20 different ports you can sail from the US. Now, and they all do those short little trial things. So that would be what I would say is the first thing people should do.
Brilliant. And where have you been your favourite destinations?
It's funny, my most favourite of all cruises. I have two top things, if you like. Number one is the transatlantic. Crossing from Southampton to New York or New York to Southampton, because I love the sea days, I love being at sea, and for me that's what cruising is all about. It's linked to the history, the heritage, and that sort of stuff. So that's my absolute favourite is the transatlantic crossing. It's really magical. 7 days at sea and all the pomp and ceremony. If you do it on Cunard, you don't have to do it on Cunard. You can do it on anything. And the second is the Caribbean. I absolutely adore the Caribbean because you're going from island to island. Each seems more beautiful than the next. It's beautiful weather, incredible people, amazing scenery. So those are my 2 absolute favourites.
Okay. And for people that perhaps aren't too swayed by the idea of cruising and prefer the traditional package holiday, why do you think that cruising is a better alternative to the traditional package holiday?
It's interesting because people who like package holidays and like resort holidays generally like cruising more than anybody else, because actually it's a very similar concept. Because you have all your accommodation, you have all your food, you have entertainment laid on. If you've got kids, you've got kids clubs, you've got lots of interactive stuff, where you can meet people. And so people who like package holidays and resorts, and like all those kind of things about mixing with people, don't have to worry about budgeting, all that sort of stuff. But the advantage you have is every day you wake up somewhere different. So you have all the benefits of being in a resort, and you have all the advantage of actually, it's not the same beach every day, it's not the same place every day. it's a different place every single day.
Yeah.
And I found the people who like cruising more than anybody else are literally those people who like package holidays and resorts. And a lot of ships now are designed like resorts, Royal Caribbean, Carnival, MSC, they're really going out of their way to be like destinations.
Yeah.
So you have a kind of destination and destinations combination. So, those are the people who probably cruising will appeal to more than anything else.
Is there anywhere you'd like to go that you haven't already been to?
2 places, absolutely. Alaska. I haven't been to Alaska yet, and it's my New Year's resolution is I'm going to go to Alaska no matter what, whether it's for work or whatever, because I've done the fjords, and I was very skeptical about going to the fjords because I thought it was like an old people's kind of place, and then you just realize the beauty of it. The ship gets riding 100 miles inland, and you've got these sheer mountains, and everyone I've spoken who's been to Alaska say the same thing. So Alaska is number 1. Number 2 is the Antarctica. Before, if you wanted to go down to Antarctica, it was about roughing it. So there's adventure ships, so it's kind of quite rough, and I like them slightly more comfortable. So and now it's becoming a much more common thing. So Silver Sea, Seabourn, many other ships, and it's still smaller ships designed for the region. But I'd love to go to Antarctica. So those are the 2 kind of hotspots, the next 2 places that I haven't been there and want to go to.
Well, I hope you get to go in 2014.
Yeah, it's definitely my next resolution. Yeah.
Are there any things you'd recommend first-time cruisers to bring on a cruise that they wouldn't bring on a holiday?
I mean, the great thing about cruising, particularly if you go from a home port, is you can take everything. You have no limitations. So one of the things I always say to first-time cruisers is the advantage of sailing from a home port where you're driving to, just keep packing until you run out of suitcases and bring everything. If you're flying, you're restricted obviously by the airline you're flying with, you're an EasyJet or whatever. So, but I would say the key things, it depends on your cruise line. So one of the things, if you're a first-time cruiser, you need to think about is the dress code. So if you're going on, say, Cunard, which has lots of formal nights, so it's ball gowns or black tie, you need to make sure that you've got the right set of clothes for those different kind of events. If you go on a more casual cruise line like Norwegian, it's less so. Then it's just whatever you take on your normal holiday. So that's kind of the dress code thing. The second thing that you need to think about, I would say, is make sure that you're taking your little your sort of first aid kit, if you like, because obviously you're in different ports and stuff, and the ships don't have a chemist. So if you need headache pills or anti-diarrhea pills or whatever pills, coughs and sneezes, I always would take like a little pack of that kind of stuff, because ships can't sell it because you have to go to a Boots or a drugstore or pharmacy equivalent. So it's good to have a little set of those, and it saves you having to go to the pharmacy, to the doctors or whatever. And the third thing is also thinking about what ports you're going to, because although everything that you take, everything you buy on board, you buy with effectively a credit card. If you're getting off in lots of different countries, you're going to need money to buy, taxis or go to local markets or whatever. So you need to think a little bit about packing money suitable for wherever you're going to. I would say those are probably the 3 kind of buckets of stuff.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Obviously, cruise ships have evolved quite a lot, come a long way in the last 10 years. Do you think they will continue to evolve, or do you think they're at their best now?
I think, and also when you listen to people in the cruise industry, I mean, that's probably the big priority is innovation on cruise ships, because cruise ships are largely the same sort of structure. So it's kind of what you put inside is different. So every cruise line is trying to find a way of differentiating themselves and being different. So I think we're going to see a lot of change, particularly as they're trying to attract more first-time cruisers. Come back to one of the original questions. You're trying to find things where people are more sporty or they're more family or whatever. And I think we've seen a lot of those innovations. So I think we'll see things keep evolving and more specialist ships. So there's been a trend into really big ships. Ships getting bigger and bigger. And I think actually what's going to happen increasingly is you're going to see lots of smaller, more targeted ships. Particularly as they open new destinations, like we were talking about Antarctica. You can't take the big ships there. You need ships which can deal with ice. Or whatever. So I think we're going to see lots of innovations around smaller, more specialist as they open new kind of destinations. But I think every cruise company is trying to find the next exciting thing, the next, whether it's ice skating or water parks or whatever. I think we're going to keep seeing that kind of stuff.
Wow, great. Do you have a favourite cruise line at all? that you liked?
I think probably the one I've been on the most is the Queen Mary 2. It's a ship, and I've got a very soft spot for Cunard. I've travelled on lots of other cruise lines, but I like Cunard because it's very traditional still. It has this kind of Art Deco style to it. And the Queen Mary 2 is a one of a kind. So the danger nowadays with many cruise ships is they're largely the same with a little bit of difference inside. Whereas the Queen Mary 2 is a one-off ship. It's the only true ocean liner. So there's a big difference in design between ships which are built just for cruising and ships like QB2, which is now retired obviously, Queen Mary 2, which is designed to go through the Atlantic all the time. And so it's got a very specific design. And it's a beautiful ship. It's a one-off. And so that's probably my most favourite ship of all, Queen Mary 2. It's the one I spend the most time on as well. So I have a soft spot.
Great. And moving on to your book, the Cruise Traveller's Handbook, where can fans buy it?
The main place to buy it is all the sort of the main online booksellers. You can buy it as a paperback or an electronic book. So Amazon is obviously the main one. W.H. Smith online. If people are out of the UK, Amazon like Canada, US, India, France, blah blah blah. And in the US, Barnes and Noble are the main places to buy it. Amazon's the easiest place probably. And
lastly, we'd like to ask you, where do you usually tend to get your travel money when you go on cruises? What do you find the best method to pay for goods for you?
Well, I mean, there's probably two things. One of which we mentioned is obviously the fare and all the stuff you do on the ship. You tend to pay with your credit card because you register a credit card and you have your card and everything on board. You charge the card. The thing that I tend to do though is in port, once you get to port, I tend to self-explore much more. So I try and as much as possible go on my own excursions because I like the idea of getting money into the local economy. So I like to spend cash as much as possible. So what I would tend to do is I would tend to take local currency. In most regions, the US dollar, so all through the Caribbean, obviously the US, even if you go to places like St. Petersburg in Russia, they will take US dollars. So I tend to buy online because I like buying online and you get the best rates. So often via your site, I'm not just saying that, genuinely do use your site. And because I find what's quite good about that is I always get the best rates, and like sometimes if you buy £400 at a time, you get a better deal. So I like that. So you kind of so I tend to buy it online before I go. If I'm going to places where they take different currencies, then I'll buy. I generally take US dollars and euros for most places. And one of the things that now that I'm looking at is I'm doing a big trip around Asia, and then what I'll do is I'll get lots of, for each of the main currencies for those places, because I think it's very important. Once you get off the ship, you should see the local. You can go on little excursions and everything's paid for, but I think it's really important to get into the local markets. Go to the beach and do whatever, buy the local drinks, eat in the local restaurants and stuff like that. So that's what I do. Is I always, before I go, I have a little pot of money based on the places I'm going to and online.
Great. Well, it's been really great to have you here. Thank you so much for sharing your cruise expertise with us. And we really recommend that our viewers get hold of this book from Amazon. You can get it almost anywhere online. So we hope you've enjoyed this video and we look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you and goodbye.